Hey guys, it's mcfixit here. We're back with another disc die. We're going to be making this sweet, oh yeah, Mr. Kool-Aid. And we'll be removing the original stamp on this. This is a Cricut cut. I'm going to walk you through all the tools and supplies and then on how you can get this done yourself. So here are the tools and the supplies that I used. You're going to want your disc. You're going to want the lighter the disc, the better. Oracle 651, cut it out on a Cricut. And I just created this, looks pretty sweet. And we're gonna be using some transfer paper, lots of paper towels. And then we're gonna use possibly some denatured alcohol to remove any stickiness afterwards. Sometimes when you use Oracle 5160s and you're gonna do a hotbed a few times, it can make it kind of nasty. Acetone works really well. Got a little butane torch right here. And just works heating things up. Gonna use a black eye poly, 16 ounces to 1 packet. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to dye it red or if I'm just going to use a lotion dye. If I do use the lotion dye, some blue as well for lotion. You're gonna want a pot or a pan. Make sure it's big enough. This is the one I've used many times for black. I have different pans and different things that I use for different ones, so at least for now we'll be using that one. This is an electric burner, pretty cheap. You're gonna want some kind of heat gun or some kind of something to warm it up. You can use a blow dryer. Just really helps sticking the vinyl onto the disc. You may need a ruler. Sharpie is really important too. You may need some kind of tweezers, pick, and a scraper tool. So all those can be helpful and useful to be able to weed everything properly. So let's go ahead and dive right on in. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. So we're gonna go ahead and take that acetone, pop it. And I know some people say you probably need to use something different than paper towels. I have found very good luck with paper towels. And you're just going to simply go back and forth with it and erase that original stamp. Fold it back over on itself, and there's still quite a bit on there. I probably didn't have to dip it again, but just keep going at it. This disc has been used a couple of times, not very much at all. And so you might see a little bit of marks and stuff like that. It's for a buddy of mine. He did throw it in, but it's fairly new, not well used. These DD3s are pretty sweet. Got some good stability, but also go really far. I've not thrown one in yellow yet, so maybe I'll throw this before I give it back to him. He'll never know, right? So, one other thing I didn't mention, Dawn dish soap and water. This is just to clean it. You can go inside your house and clean, or you can just use some Dawn dish soap and water. It just kind of helps stop it from going crazy and even eating away at the disc. I am going to clean up that underside just a little bit. Did have a little bit of smudge on there. Next thing to do is we're going to go ahead and weed and decide how we kind of want this weeded. And so you have the opportunity to kind of do it however you want, but I'll show you how I do it. I do like to speed this part of my video up. I'm just going to pick everything I want to be black. Actually, in fact, let's just go ahead. Let's shake it up real good and go ahead and pour it. So I'm gonna do almost all of it. I'll just go ahead and turn that on up to number 2.5. That's what I like to do. Then we're just gonna go ahead and weed out. Everything we want to be black is going to be weeded right now. And so you just kind of put it in at an angle and pull it off. I probably will speed this up just for the simple fact that once you start, it's pretty simple. And you can see this one pretty well because this is a white vinyl. If it was a clear vinyl, it's a little harder to see because they don't have the blue behind it. But just take your time, weed everything how you should. So I like how that looks right there. It's everything that I want to be black is kind of now blue, I guess you would say. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and put the disc down and kind of figure out where I want it to be. I'm trying to find, there it is. It's hard to see. But this is just trying to kind of center everything up. Now I could make him in the center, but I feel like the whole thing needs to be centered. And I am going to kind of scoot it over a little bit to make sure it is where I want it to be. So once you kind of like that, I just put a little circle around it. This is not going to get on the lip of the disc because of the angle of the Sharpie. But I think it just helps me kind of line everything up nice and properly. I'm going to go ahead and set the disc off to the side. And yeah, that looks good. And so this is almost ready. You can start to see it starting to smoke. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. I do not want that to boil. Boiling is not good for that. This is that transfer paper. This has been used many times. Oh no, the thing was falling off on the side. And so it's probably at about its life. There's not going to get many more good transfers out of this one. Hopefully it at least lasts for this one. I get about, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 good transfers, maybe a couple more than that. But you can see this even got some dye on this when I was doing something previously. And so it's starting to kind of look a little nasty. But all we want this to do is transfer properly. I do know some people that just hit a touch of heat on it as well. I don't know if this is necessary, but whatever you can get to make it come up better, go for it. Kind of have my disc there and begin to peel the corner up. And I have found this works best at a good angle. If it's too flat, it doesn't seem like it actually wants to pull anything up. And it's working, but not great. I'm going to go ahead and move the disc back out of the way. I was hoping for a real quick, easy pull. It's a great opportunity to just double check, make sure it's exactly how you want that. And so sometimes I actually do this upside down, which is what I'm probably going to do here, because you can see that line pretty well, and hopefully you can get everything else nice and lined up as well. Because your other option is to put this down and to guess where it's going to go, which makes it pretty hard. And I got that in some crap. I don't even know what that is. It's like lint, which is not necessarily good. So line that bad boy up real good. Everything is very sticky. You only get really one shot at getting this lined up well. Trying your best to get it centered. So I'm going to spend a few seconds just really pushing this down and in. I'll go ahead and heat it up just a little bit too. And then we'll go ahead and take the corners. And I like to just kind of put this around the disc, just like I'm doing here. It does tend to keep the rim really nice on the disc. And using a 12 by 12 sheet instead of like a 9 or really 8 3/4, I think it just saves you some of that headache and heartache of messing up. So now we're just going to slowly pull this back. See how well we can get it on the first attempt. That actually worked really well. And we will go ahead and put this back down on here. I'm not certain if I'm going to use that again. I might use it one more time, or I might just go ahead and get some new. So I'm just going to go ahead and start getting just some of those original bubbles out. And we did pretty good with the line. We're pretty well lined up, which is what I like to see. If you're not, go ahead and cut a new vinyl, because it's not going to get any better from there. So I just put a little bit of heat, and then we're really going to make sure all of our lines are good. All of our letters look good. I think that looks pretty sweet right there. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this, put it in the center. And I like to just go ahead and, oh, forgot one thing. Make sure you don't have any air bubbles. One of the easiest ways you can do that is use a little butane torch, just like so. And I just kind of go back and forth 3 or 4 times. Go ahead and take your disc, and I like to put it down at an angle. And go ahead and let that thing sit for a good solid 10 minutes. So I let this go ahead and sit for 10 minutes, and then outside the camera frame I did turn this on just so it was heating up. Just to make sure it was starting, and we'll go ahead and pull up. Now see what we look like. And that looks really good right there. Nice dark color. That 10 minutes was perfect. If yours is not dark, go ahead and put it down for another 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes. You do want to make sure that it is dark. Then clean your whole disc pretty well here. You don't want anything bleeding through when you take stuff off. So now we need to go ahead and we'll go ahead and pour this back in real quick. I don't know if I said I had a funnel back here, but I have a funnel back there. And I don't clean out this pan. I know that might sound really weird to some people. I pretty much just put a pie pan over top of it to keep any dirt debris out, and reuse it multiple times, because I think that does keep some of that dye in there. So that's just one thing I do. You don't have to do that if you don't want, but that did seem to work pretty well for me. Go ahead and clean out your funnel. I'm not going to put the cap back on this yet because it's still pretty hot, but I do like to put the cap next to it. So the next thing you have to do is decide what you want to be red. So I know I want pretty much all of him to be red for me. I think I'm going to try to leave some of this, and I know I want to leave kind of some of it, like the ice cubes. And then I am going to put a little cut mark right here, because I do want to try to save that where it's like it didn't get filled up. So we'll see if that works. So pretty much all of him is going to be peeled. So I think the only thing I'm going to put blue is the couple of pieces of ice. And so I think the rest of that is going to stay. This is going to be yellow because it's just going to kind of be the rim, which would have originally been white, but I don't have white since I'm starting on a yellow thing. So that should be pretty close. It looks like it's just beginning to smoke, so we'll go ahead and turn that off. This is hot, so please be careful with it. And so we'll go ahead and I do like to torch the top of it. This does help reduce the amount of air bubble potentially that you get. And we'll go ahead and stick that down and in, just like so. Go ahead and let that sit for another 10 minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and lift this up. It has been 10 minutes in this, and this is that red eye dye poly. We'll go ahead and wipe it off to get it kind of clean. We still do have to do the blue ice, but you do want to make sure you don't have any air bubbles and you need to put it down any longer. But go ahead, take some time, clean it up. Even if you need to spray it with some Dawn dish soap and water, that will help clean it up more. I did get a little bit on the rim here, but it's going to be able to be wiped up pretty easily. But you do want to make sure you're not transferring that dye to anything else. So make sure you have a clean workspace and you don't just get dye everywhere. And now it's time to go ahead and start weeding. You can't scoot things over. I prefer not to put it back on top of the heating element, so I'm just going to scoot it over and go ahead and start weeding those few ice cubes that are left. And what I like to do is actually use some Oracle 5160 vinyl to cover up around the area so we don't have any overlap of colors, because red and blue would make more of a purple color, and that's fine if you want to do a purple Kool-Aid Man, but I wanted this one to be the red Kool-Aid Man, so we are going to use some vinyl and cut it and put it around. This is that vinyl I'm talking about, just a scrap piece. It works really well just cutting it, and it does take some time, but you just kind of trace around and cut it pretty small, because we are going to be using Lotion dye, and so you can see, just kind of keep cutting it till you get just a little bit of overlap all the way around, and pick it and go ahead and put it down. And just like the other, you are going to want to probably use some heat gun and just go ahead and push it down. Make sure you're getting all of the air bubbles out. That is really helpful to just get a good seal on here, so when you put the lotion dye on, it does exactly what it is supposed to do. So go ahead and get your lotion dye out. Go ahead and shake it. I use about 1/4 of a teaspoon here with about 3 to 4 ounces of lotion, and that normally works out pretty well. And sometimes you do get it on your hands as well, and I am going to just kind of clean off the tip. You might want to use some toothpicks and things to kind of push this out and spread it out, but you're just pretty much just putting a good blob on there. You did do a really good job covering everything, so it will just help make this a lot simpler. And I do really like to wait about 12 hours or at least overnight to let that dye really get into the plastic, because you're not putting any heat on it. So now we've waited 12 hours with this blue dye on here. We're going to go ahead and wipe the blue dye off. I'm just using a paper towel here, and you don't want to like get it on anything else, but just go ahead and wipe it and kind of see if you like what that color looks like. If it is too light, go ahead and let it sit for another couple of hours. You can also put it like out in the sun, and sometimes it helps a little bit, but I like this. We're going to go ahead and put some Dawn dish soap and water and start cleaning it up. That will help all the dye from stop moving around and dyeing your disc. It did kind of come out purple, I know that, but the next thing to do is go ahead and take the vinyl off and weed the rest of it. This does take a few seconds to do. Just take your time pulling it off and getting all the little pieces off. So now that you've weeded everything, we are going to need to use a little bit of denatured alcohol. The front of it is kind of sticky, especially if you have gloves on, so just go ahead and take a paper towel, fold it a couple of times, open up your denatured alcohol, put it on that towel, and then you're just going to move it back and forth. Try not to get it over your brand new dye. It will kind of take a little bit up, but it does a whole lot better than acetone or anything else I've found. If you do have anything that works a little bit better than this, please go ahead and put that down in the comment section below. But acetone just seems like it just makes the dye bleed, but this denatured alcohol seems to be working the best for me. So this disc looks really sweet. It had come out really well with all the different dye that we had put on there. Remember, we did black, we did red, and then we did the blue for the ice. And just got to clean it up just a little bit more, make sure all that stickiness is gone. But it's pretty much done and ready to throw. That's going to look so sweet. And you can still see that it says DD3 on it a little bit. And that is just ready to toss. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you do have any comments, please make sure to put them down in the comments section below. If you haven't subscribed, do that as well. Thank you guys so much for watching.